Now, with the Morning Magazine, here's Carl Hilke.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Magazine for this October 2nd, 2019. You have James J. Maloff in for Carl Hilke today, and right now I am joined by a couple of our great people, part of our community right now. We have Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker in with us, and you want to introduce yourself? I'll let you introduce yourself.
Joe Zerfel, I'm the investigative lieutenant with the Sheriff's Department.
Joe, it's always nice to have you in with us, too. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't enough, we've got Wisconsin Rapids Community Media with us. Kevin, how are you doing today? I just like putting you on the spot, Kev. I'm sorry. Hey.
You're not the only one.
Joe and Shawn, thank you both so much for not only being in, but one of the things I like to try to talk to our audience and find out questions they might have and such. And one of the things, there wasn't any really questions from anybody. The word that kept on coming up was transparency. And how important that is in today's day and age. We see because the news cycle is the way it is and everything, they love to attach to the bad stories out there. One of the things that I like to do with you two is certainly get in any information that you guys want to come across with, but show that human beings and you're part of this community and you're good guys. I mean, you guys are genuinely just good people that care about this community. I guess I just don't know you that well. But giving some of that to this, it ties into it all. It all ties it together. And we want kids to feel comfortable talking to our authority figures, talking to our police and our sheriffs and that. And you guys doing these kind of shows, it helps with that. It goes a long way. How you are in the community, the transparency, the openness. There's no longer this kind of gray area in between, authority figures and citizens, and that there's a connection there now, and because of the way things are. So I appreciate that time, and the audience appreciates that, the honesty, just the genuineness out of both of you.
No, I appreciate bringing that up because as we've talked before, you're exactly right. We're people too, and we're members of our communities here within the county, and you'll see that a lot of our deputies and corrections officers are involved in the community, whether they're coaching part of their church or any type of groups or clubs that they get involved in, and we encourage that just so people see exactly what you're saying, James, and I appreciate the fact that you brought that up to start to show off. Like Lieutenant Zerflu here, he's an alderman in Wisconsin Rapids, so he's given back to his community in a couple different ways. Number one, working at the Sheriff's Department, and number two, now being an elected official, being involved with a lot of decisions that are being made at the city of Wisconsin Rapids. So we commend him for doing that. We have another investigator, Sergeant Andy Simon, who's on the board for Grand Rapids. So that's taken another step to be involved, invested into the communities that we live in. So
this area, central Wisconsin in general, for some years back, we saw Plover blow up a little bit more. The Rome area is getting bigger, and certainly Rapids is going to be growing and has been growing. And 2020 is a huge year. I seem to be talking about it with every guest I have in. And with all of that said, there's some core things that need to be ready and need to be set up right. And one of those that we can thankfully we have is what you guys do. And that we have this kind of set in place. We have a good system so that when the population gets a little bit bigger or gets a little noisier or whatever, we've got some good things in place. We have good management in place, if you will, to give it a name. So those are key things to this, I think. But there's also a lot of other things to be talking about today, too. And I know you have Crime Stoppers coming up.
Yeah, we have an event this Friday at the PAC Center here in Wisconsin Rapids. Crime Stoppers puts on a fundraiser every year where they work with a marketing company where they bring in a pretty good band every year. Last year, they had somebody that was a Neil Diamond lookalike. And this year, they've got somebody called the Britons that will be doing a tribute to the Beatles.
Nice.
So this Friday is the event here at the PAC Center. And if somebody would like to call in, and they don't have to ask us a question, just call in and say, hey, I want the tickets. Feel free to call in. I've got 4 complimentary tickets if somebody would like to call in, and we'll have them here at the station. Or I can deliver them to you if you'd like. But it's this Friday. It's a great event. I've been to it a couple times. It's like I said, the marketing company that Crime Stoppers uses, brings in a decent, entertaining band. So yeah, if somebody calls in, we'll make sure that we get you the tickets.
I like the idea though of somebody winning tickets. They forgot they won them, and you just show up at their house in the car. It's just just immediately.
We'll have the PA going. So
maybe it's just me and my family, but that might freak us out a little. That might not.
Understandable. That's why the option.
I make the joke. Because I know we've joked about these kind of things, and I think that's another thing that adds to what we've been talking about here is that human side that we can do that kind of thing. Maybe back when we were kids, you wouldn't feel as comfortable joking with a sheriff like that or something. Right. I appreciate that we're able to do that now. You can have respect. And at the same time, be able to be human. That's one of those things that I appreciate nowadays, not only from you guys, but from our mayor, from other people. This humbleness of the position. Certainly respect needs to be there. And that has to be, almost at the forefront of this. You don't go too far with these things. But at the same time, just being human. We see one of my favorite things virally is seeing, an officer playing pickup basketball with a bunch of kids for no reason. These kind of things. We need more of that. And that's why these shows and that kind of thing is so important. And why something like Crime Stoppers is so much fun, or the Run with the Cops and these kind of things.
We'll talk about that. But bringing up, when officers or deputies get out of their car, especially during the summer or even the winter, if somebody's stuck, just helping them, push them out of a ditch or being stuck in the road. But it reminds me of a time that Deputy Nate Dean was on patrol down in the casino area on some native land, and he saw some kids out playing basketball. And he got out and started playing basketball with them, and he noticed that the backboard that they're using was broken. So he came back with an idea to the department. Hey, can we buy them one? They're not that expensive. Yeah. Great idea. So we did. And then he and his lieutenant, Charlie Hugesteiger, went out and installed it. One day when they were all out playing basketball, it took them a while to get it going. I don't know how well they are at putting things together, but they got it done. But it brings up, James, exactly what you said, getting out of your squad and making contact, especially with kids. And that's just something that was well received, not only within our department, but within the community as well. And, countless times we've gotten pictures, sent to us where our part-time deputies are in the parks, just, walking around, talking with campers, and then just getting a picture with some kids and having those conversations are huge because, again, we go back to the transparency thing that you brought up. We're not robotic. We're people. We do see some bad things sometimes, but we do see a lot of good things, and we're all in it doing the same thing to help people out. But
and with the events coming up, whenever they are, there's another tie into that too. With that, where the Crime Stoppers, Running with the Cops, anything that you guys do, these are also they raise money for good organizations. Certainly, it's very important. But there's that part of it too, where you're interacting with the community is seeing you, interacting with them, and that goes so far with people. It is so one of the things that frustrates me so much with the media today is it is such low-hanging fruit to take a bad cop situation and blow it up. And this is one of those situations where I deal with a lot when I with my old neighborhood in Chicago. And it's bad. It's rough. But it isn't Baghdad. It is not as bad as the media makes it seem. I know. I've walked those streets. I've walked them in the past month and know how that can be. And I also know that there is a connection between the police force and them that nobody talks about, that nobody seems to see. The cameras never pick that stuff up. But there is a good connection there. Those officers do go to bad neighborhoods. They do. A lot of these things that when I was a kid in the 80s that were around are not around anymore. And that needs to be in the forefront more with all of this stuff. Because again, it's low-hanging fruit to just say, well, the blue line and all these different things and stuff. You guys probably, and I don't at all want to speak for you, but I would imagine that you guys dislike bad police officers more than we as citizens do. Anybody who, I know for me, anytime somebody gives an actor a bad name, it makes us all look bad. Right. So I can't stand bad actors. I can't stand that kind of thing. I can imagine the level it is for you guys. Right. what you said just earlier, what you have to see every day, what you deal with every day. You're lucky when you have these good stories and stuff, but you see some hardcore stuff, and you got to go home to your families with that and everything.
No,
Only adds on to it when it's one of your own, or I imagine,
you're exactly right. There's way more good cops, law enforcement officers out there than there are bad ones. And you're right. When somebody does make mistakes, in our profession, the media grabs it, and it's a story, and they want to sell a story. I understand that. But especially our local media, I have to say, is James, everybody, they look at positive stories, and they look at our department's Facebook pages and see where we're promoting events like the Run with the Cops. And we can talk about that a little bit more. But it's nice to see our local media grab those stories and make a story out of it.
Yeah.
And that shows, a lot of that positiveness that we want to promote in law enforcement, that community policing that's been out forever. I mean, and it'll still remain a big part of law enforcement because it's important, because you should get to know your law enforcement officers.
Yeah. And one of the ways you can do that is with the Crime Stoppers, or, with any of these events coming up and everything. How, when it comes to creating these events, is you guys got day jobs, you're pretty busy. How hard is it to make these events kind of happen, and at the same time, doing the day job and everything?
Well, a lot of help. I mean, it's not just going to be one individual at an agency that is going to be, putting on, community events. It's a lot of buy-in from the department. And if something comes up that, we feel that law enforcement could be at, we go. Or if we can get an opportunity to create something like Run with the Cops, that started at least in the Wisconsin Rapids area 3 years ago. That we had talked about. My daughter used to work for the Special Olympics organization, and our special response team used to do a 5K, and it was a really good fundraiser. And then we decided not to do it again. And then at that point, the Run with the Cops idea came to be an idea that, hey, here's something that law enforcement can still partner with somebody, being that Special Olympics, and we could do another community event. And 5Ks are very popular.
Yes.
From spring to even through the winter, you have them. People, especially if there's a cause connected to it, they've become very popular. And the event Run with the Cops, this is our third one. Every year, or it could be our fourth. Anyway, more and more people have been coming out to the event. So this year, it's this Thursday, and I got to give a huge shout out to Wisconsin Rapids Police Department. They work very closely with the Special Olympics organization to continue this event with the changes that the organization has had at Special Olympics. Officers Eric Dobbin and Herman Alvarez have just done an outstanding job just by promoting the event, putting videos out there, and just helping coordinate this large event. You got to look at, all right, where are you going to put a 5K? And fortunately, we have a place already established. All right, now, getting all the other law enforcement agencies around, because the whole course is going to have law enforcement officers from several different organizations within Southwood County. We're going to have our armored vehicle there. We'll have our rescue unit there, several of our squads, and same with, Wisconsin Rapids Police Department, Grand Rapids Police Department, Rome. Several different agencies will be here, and that's where a lot of people, during that event, will have the opportunity to interact with us from not just one agency. But it just shows that working together, how important that is, especially at a law enforcement level. I've talked about that before. Having that positive relationship with other law enforcement agencies is huge, because you never know when you might need some help. And there shouldn't be any issue that any individual should have. It's like, all right, I'm coming to help you out, no matter what that situation might be, whether it's positive or negative. We all work together. We might not all agree all the time.
Yeah.
But that's part of it.
Yeah.
There's still that level of respect, like you said, and that's huge between law enforcement.
It's good for our community to see too. To be able to look at that and know that there's a connection there, that there's a relationship there that's a healthy one and everything. I think that we've all seen throughout the country, there are times where is a divide. I see this a lot in California, and there's some animosity between two different groups that are doing the same thing, basically trying to do the same thing. It's really comforting to see that, especially when it comes to, crime in general. We want share information. That's how these, things get taken care of and hopefully prevented even.
Yeah, Joe can talk a little bit more about that because the investigation unit that he runs and oversees, a lot of investigations aren't exclusive to one department.
Well, and we're paying Joe by the hour. We haven't used him yet, so I mean, we got to get him used. It is good to have you with us, Joe. By the way, Lieutenant Joe Zerflew with us. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind touching on that a bit.
Yeah, crime, doesn't follow county lines or city lines or anything like that. So, we have to work very closely with Marshfield, Wisconsin Rapids, our other police departments within the county, other counties. It's nonstop. I mean, it's
got to be.
Yeah.
And it's got to be one of those things too, where it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, to build these relationships and everything, and probably not just assuming, because this is like this with everything, that there's the people that were doing these jobs before you. Maybe there were relationships, bridges that were burned or things like that. I've even learned some of that in this business. So that can't be too easy either. It takes work to get there, but we're there. We're there right now.
Well, the culture was different when I started in law enforcement. There, you could see that there's probably a little bit of a, I wouldn't say divide, but the upper levels of management, 20 some years ago, just for whatever reason, didn't work together as often as we do now.
Yeah.
But as throughout the years, if you see different people from that era when they started their law enforcement career, start being promoted at the same time together and sharing that same philosophy, things just came together where, you need to have that strong working relationship with your other law enforcement partners. And it doesn't stop there either. We're fortunate at the Sheriff's Department to have a rescue unit. So that brings us an opportunity, the way I look at it, to work with a lot of the other first responders, within the area. I know that our rescue unit can be political, but as far as the way I look at it as an opportunity to work with your other fire departments, and that's countywide. Yeah, I know that the rescue unit only really responds to emergencies in a specific part of the county. But every fire department should know if they have a public event that they need help with, or even an incident that is long-term and you need help, ask. Yeah. That's been mentioned, and it's up to that department if they feel that there's a need. But we have volunteers, we have the equipment for certain situations, such as, bad vehicle crashes, traffic control. They're available anywhere in the county. Just have to ask.
The lack of ego is really refreshing to see, not only with you two, but with just in other law enforcement agencies throughout the country, or in central Wisconsin here, and even in political ways. Our board members I've talked to, our mayor, different people like that. There's a humbleness that exists that this is something that just happens. It's just the person, and that you can't make necessarily. You can't go out and say that I'm going to be this way. It happens that way. It's very refreshing to see. This in general, because we see it so much in different businesses and different things, and even in your field. But when this one with you guys, it's just non-existent, and it's very appreciated. It's not about who gets a credit for a bust or something like that. It's about making the bust. It's about getting the city safer, that kind of thing.
Yep. And the teamwork that made it happen.
Yeah.
Just at our level, but when you look at more serious crimes, unfortunately they don't happen very often. Mm-hmm. But when we do get one, and that's where you see that teamwork approach, and not only just with our department or other local departments, that even goes beyond with the state. If we have a terrible tragedy such as a traffic fatality, we count on and work with the state patrol to help us reconstruct that scene. So, that working together, that attitude, expands way beyond just locally, but throughout the state.
We got a couple minutes before our first time out here, and what I'd like to do real quick is just because I feel like this is one of those ones where the answer we all know, but coming from you guys, it means a little bit more. we're talking a lot about what you guys do, what your offices do, and everything to keep this city, keep this area safer, and central Wisconsin safer, really in general. But what are things that we can do as citizens to make that happen? And I'm not talking about going out and making citizen arrests. I mean, just in general, as far as like, keeping an eye on our neighborhood, things like that. I think that there are some people who like to people watch and that, and I get that in a sense. It's never really been that interesting to me, but I get that. So I'm not necessarily talking about that end of it, but if that is part of it, please, include it. But it's one of those ones where it feels like it's a common enough answer, but coming from you two, I think it means a little different.
And I guess I don't know who coined the saying, maybe a agency in New York or something, or maybe a federal agency, but if you see something, say something slogan. Mm-hmm. In 15 or 16 years doing this, much longer for the sheriff here, I have noticed that a lot of people, for whatever reason, are reluctant to call us.
Right.
Sometimes maybe, I don't know if they think they're bothering us, or maybe it's not, they don't think it's worth our time. But I mean, that's fine. We respond all the time to things that, end up being unfounded, or maybe there's no action taken, but maybe we stop something in the process.
Right.
And to piggyback on that, a couple opportunities or comments to say. One, as we already talked about, Crime Stoppers is out there. Mm-hmm. If you do see something, you want to remain anonymous, and you could get a reward. That's an opportunity for somebody to report a crime. Or you can call our dispatch center and remain anonymous to it and report whatever you're observing out in the community, whether it's illegal or not. If it looks suspicious, please report it. Mm-hmm. Like Joe said, we'll check it out. And one thing that, the last thing I'll say about it is, being out in the community more and more, such as we are, just, daily people coming up to us and shaking our hand and saying, thank you.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It goes a long way to that individual officer. Just if we're having lunch out in the community or dinner, or stopping at, Quick Trip or somewhere else to get a soda, and just having somebody come up to us and offering to shake our hand and saying thank you for what you do.
This is why I wanted to ask that question, because that's an end of it I didn't think of. And it's funny, as soon as you said that, I love being on stage. I love performing and getting to act and everything. But the thing that I love the most about all of it is at the end, when we get to shake people's hands that are in the audience and see their enjoyment, see that they enjoyed it and everything. That's a part of it I like. That's such a important part of this, and it's something I wouldn't have even thought of. But you're right. That goes a long way. It really does. And I can't imagine what it does for you guys. I mean, what you do is so much more important and serious than what I'm talking about. But it's really, it kind of reminds me of that, because encouragement costs nothing, but it can mean everything. Right. And it doesn't, it's not hard to do. Thank you is not hard to say. And honestly, it's one of those things that can keep you going sometimes. You have these bad days, you have these rough days. You two know it better than I do, and what the things you've seen and gone through and everything. So to have that in your back pocket, it's got to go a long way sometimes. As important as it is to you see, if you see something, say something. That's as important part too.
Completely.
Very well said, sir. That was good. That was a good point. We are going to take a really quick break. We will come back and have more with Sheriff Shawn Becker and Lieutenant Joe Zerflu right here on Morning Magazine. This is AM 1320 WFHR. We have Morning Magazine. I want to welcome everybody to join us for that Morning Magazine in this October 2nd, 2019. In studio with us right now, Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker, Lieutenant Joe Zerflu, and Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. You guys brought in a beautiful plaque, and I just want to let you guys talk about this and introduce it.
Sure. Recently, Sergeant, now Deputy Sarah McCormick, she's was an investigator, and now she transferred over to the Courthouse Security Division. In 1989, we lost a deputy traveling to work. She was on her way to work, LaVon Zenner. And she was heading up to our Marshfield office to report for duty. And she got into a traffic crash, and she was killed. And Sarah has been doing an outstanding job researching a lot of information on that incident. And we have a plaque made, and we have it proudly hung up at the Sheriff's Department to represent, LaVon and her family. But she had, as far as Sarah went out and talked with her family, and we've been moving forward with establishing a scholarship in her name at Mid-State Technical College. The scholarship is funded by the Deputy Sheriff Association from our Sheriff's Department. And so that just happened this year. So that's going to be something that will continue to be ongoing for as long as we can, continue to provide that scholarship to mid-state students studying to be getting into law enforcement. So we're really fortunate to have that that technical college here in town, and they're training young law enforcement officers to get into the field. But no, we really felt moving forward with honoring her because we hadn't before. I know years ago I found her picture, and then Sarah found her badge had come back to us through several different people, and as the badge that she was wearing the day that the crash happened. So we put a thing together, a frame, and we have it on display at the department.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and we're moving forward with the area that this tragedy occurred, trying to work with some of our state representatives to get part of that roadway named after her, or just a memorial, there, just so people are aware that, granted, this was several years ago, but it happened, and
right.
She wasn't technically on duty, but she was heading to work when the tragedy happened. But Sarah, like I'd said, I can't say enough. She's taken this on to move forward with honoring her, and we really appreciate the work, and it's somebody that it's a reminder of what law enforcement officers do every day, and that shift you might not go home, but you probably wear their uniform. If that happens, it does.
A big tip of the hat to Sarah for that. That's great, and please keep us up to date on that and how that's developing and everything. So that's a great one. I also wanted to mention because I noticed right away when you came in today, you got the patches on.
Yeah,
those are great. By the way, those are great. Those are really well done.
Yeah, we had talked about that before. Because Nadine's wife had breast cancer, and she's cancer-free now.
Hey, that's great.
Very tough summer for their family. They have a baby, and 4 months after their daughter was born, she's diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. So they had to go through the whole summer of treatment. And we thought that as a department, and like I said before, we stole this idea from the Marshfield Police Department, where they did a patch honoring people with autism, and talking with their police chief, Rick Ramza, he kind of pointed me in the direction of where you can get a patch modified to what you're always wearing. So we got the pink patches. Our deputies have been wearing them all summer in honor of Nadine's wife, Kristen. And then we thought that after doing that fundraiser, well, why don't we expand this? A lot of people do suffer from cancer, and we figured, well, let's continue to sell these and then provide the funds to a cancer center in Marshfield and one in Wisconsin Rapids. So it's going well.
Good to hear.
We're hoping to sell out of all of our patches and pins. The patch is $10. The pin is $5. Feel free to stop at the Sheriff's Department if you'd like one, or message us on Facebook, or give us a call. We've had people purchasing them all the way from the state of Washington. And then a lot of local people have purchased them too. So our goal is to, by the end of the month, sell out of everything and provide some funds for each cancer center. And, talking to both those cancer centers, the money is going to go towards the victims that have cancer, the people that have cancer, to help them be comfortable while they're, getting treatment. Yeah. So, so far so good. And if people, we still are selling them, so feel free to let us know.
And to rewind for a second, that's another great example of what we were talking about earlier about different departments in different cities working together. You feeling comfortable and being able to reach out to the Marshfield office about these patches, getting a little bit of a trail to go where to go with that. And years past, maybe when we were kids, you didn't see that stuff as much. So just another good example of that, I think. And they are really. It's not only an important and great cause, but they look good. They're good patches. They're very well done.
Well, the month of October is breast cancer awareness, so it kind of really fit from the previous fundraiser we did for the Dean family. Now let's just keep this going.
Yeah. We have a big weekend this weekend. A lot of high school football, of course. And one of the things, Lincoln has their homecoming game this weekend. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I've still been coaching for Lincoln High School at the varsity level. I love coaching football and just working with kids. big game, Spash Rapids, battling for the River
It's the
Jug.
one. Yeah.
And we've been talking a lot about that game and what it's meant, throughout the years. And a lot of things have changed. But when I played for Spash, and we did not like each other at all.
No.
I mean, and you were kind of taught that way with the coaching staff on both sides, whatever side of the river that you're on, it was just, you're told you don't like those guys, and it's changed a lot over the years. And a lot of that social media, where a lot of the kids now compete and interact with each other throughout the year.
So weird.
It's not
so
that,
weird.
that just almost hatred where, you're coming to play football, but there's a lot of, we were talking with the kids yesterday about just the history of this game. I really don't think that there is another high school football game in our state that has this tradition attached to it, where you have a River Jug, a trophy that one team gets to take after the game.
It's always been the cool. I always thought it was so cool when I was in school, and this game was always the biggest one to me. A lot of my friends thought that the Marshfield one was the bit. This was the one to me. This was when I was at Lincoln. This was the game.
Yeah, well, you look at the communities. Records don't matter. Who's playing better or not.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter at that point. It's that game, and having the fortunate opportunity to play in this game a couple times. That's the game I remember from 30 some years ago, and we were telling the kids that yesterday. This is just something that represents both communities coming together and watching some good high school football. And now it's homecoming, so there's going to be that attached to it,
and the Hall of Fame. That too. I almost forgot.
So there's going to be some great members from Lincoln High School getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. One being Barb Mancuso, good friend of our family, and her husband Gus coaches with me. Great guy, but she'll be inducted in the Hall of Fame with some other great people.
Great lady.
Sure is. But it'll be a busy weekend. And with that, with homecoming, we always like to tell people, behave. All right. And I don't know how much I have to really expand upon that.
Right. Yeah.
But, I know kids are kids, but, be responsible. Don't put yourself in situations that you're going to regret later.
And, not to put it all on adults, but kids learn from us, so act right. I mean, just act right. It shouldn't take it much deeper than that. I like the way you put that, because you really shouldn't have to go too deep in that. Behave. Really. You should know what that means.
Right. You're young adults, and you know what's right and wrong. And you're right. With the parents out there, we always warn them. I mean, it's not okay to host a party and say, give me your keys. It's still illegal. And then now you're responsible for every single child that is at your house. And a child is anybody under 18. So it's always a good reminder out there to don't, please, as an adult, don't put yourself in that position.
One of the things that I wanted to touch on too with the homecoming was that it's fun. It's great. We have a lot of different people coming in from out of town with these things. So keep that in mind too. We have a lot of construction on right now. Pace yourselves, take your time, have some patience. There's nowhere you got to be immediately. If you got to leave a little early, leave a little early. All these things that I know are sometimes common sense, but if they were, we wouldn't have to repeat them all the time. So.
Right. And it's going to be busy over at Lincoln High School because the Crime Stoppers event is the same night. So the parking lot's going to be full. I would suggest people for either event come early so you can get parking. I know at Lincoln, they'll have a lot of the people that are going to the Crime Stoppers event parked towards the south of the PAC Center. So that should help a little bit. But remember, Stevens Point is going to bring a lot of fans. We're going to have a lot of people coming back just for homecoming. So just, you said it, be patient. Allow yourself for less, a little bit more time when you go to both events.
It's not often that you get excited about something like this, but I'm genuinely excited about the courthouse security system that's going into place. It seems a little silly, I know, but I've always found architecture interesting, and I love when people don't just tear down their buildings, when they try to make something work with what they have. And that's a lot of what's going on right now at the courthouse. So we can touch on that a little bit because that's right around the corner, I believe.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, James. This coming Monday, we'll go live with our Courthouse Security. So just so the public is aware of it, and we've been trying to do our best to advertise as much as possible. And that's where I appreciate that we've gotten to bring this up probably the last 3 radio shows. Hey, it's coming. Now it's going to be here on Monday morning, where we will have our staff down there and to come into the courthouse. the biggest change is not the location where you're coming in, is going through a scanner.
Mhm.
All right. And so allow yourself, depending on what time you need to be at the courthouse, maybe an extra 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That might be the inconvenience that we think. I know obviously the higher times when more traffic will be coming to the courthouse will be in the morning,
Yeah.
because the employees are going to have to go through the same screening process. So anytime from like 7:45 to 8:15, there'll probably be a little bit of a line, and just be aware of that. So if you have an early a court appearance, or if you need to be in the courthouse for some other reason and you need to be that early, I'd probably come about 10 minutes early. And what we've been saying to everybody, just most everybody's flown before. Compare it to what TSA does.
Right.
That's going to be very similar
Mhm.
to what we're moving forward on. And this is a big change, not only for the sheriff's department, but the courthouse employees, or all county employees, and the community. But it's something that, again, I'm very happy with the county board moving the direction that they did.
Yeah.
It was something that was needed, because we really didn't have this level of security before.
Mhm.
And the need was there.
I love the proactiveness of it. I
Mhm.
really do. I mean, not waiting for something bad to happen before you do something. That's
Mhm.
something that we're seeing throughout this area a lot, in a lot of ways, and it's so nice to see, because I know communities I used to live in. I know places where I have friends that didn't do that, that they waited until something bad happened. Thankfully, our people are getting ahead of these
Mhm.
things. And when it comes to the prep for this, you guys have had some time to do that and everything, but now we're going live with this.
Mhm.
How are the people who are going to be working at the courthouse, the new positions and that? How are they feeling? Are they getting comfortable with this?
Yeah,
Are they?
yeah. Lieutenant Brian Peterson's overseeing Courthouse Security. There'll be challenges, scheduling challenges.
There's always stuff
because
you don't see
somebody
coming. Yeah.
has to be down there from 7:30 in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that time's covered. And having 3 people assigned to that probably isn't enough. And that's where we're going to reach out to part-time employment. We have several people that are interested in working it part-time. So we'll backfill some shortages as we move forward with that. And we might need to, maybe, have somebody else down there too to help out. So I think that'll probably be one of the challenges that I see that Brian will have to adjust to make sure that coverage is there. Because not only do you have the front entrance that we're responsible for, but the rest of the building as well.
Right.
So working with not only the patrol division, but our jail staff, if we have a trial going on where we need help, like I said, we can't abandon that front entrance. So there's still going to be a lot of coordination going on, but I'm confident Brian will do a nice job. He has a really good rapport with courthouse employees, and I know I'm real confident he'll do a nice job.
Just to go over the basics again, kind of the change. One of the bigger changes that it's going to be certainly is going through the scanner, but it being down to one entrance now. I think for some people, I know for me, anytime that's the only entrance I've ever gone to whenever I've gone to the courthouse. But I know other people have taken sides in that. But just to let people know, there's one entrance now.
Yep, one entrance, and it's on the west side of the courthouse, and it's the main entrance. So for the public, it really isn't a big change. For the employees, it is.
Yeah.
And we put together a policy that we worked with our human resources department, and that's out for the county board to improve, which I'm sure will happen sometime this month.
Yeah.
But we've definitely. This isn't a surprise to the community or our employees that work for Wood County. This, we've done a lot of, sharing of information and what's going to happen. So it won't be a surprise.
Well, and I think that is going to make it that much smoother for us as citizens too. That there's so many kinks are already worked out before we even went live with this. And I think also, then, I would say 4 out of 5 people are adults. They understand, that this is new and it's going to take some, working out kinks and things. So I'd like to think that there's going to be some patience involved with that too. And I think we hit on the main things there, arriving a little early,
Yeah, 10
it
minutes.
goes a long way.
Not like 2 hours for flying.
Yeah, that's a lot easier too.
At most 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think at certain times you're going to see that, a little bit of a line in the mornings, maybe in the early afternoons after lunch. But other than that, I don't see a huge inconvenience for anybody.
Yeah, I think having a little perspective with this is important. I flew right after, not even a month after 9/11, and it just insane. I mean, 3 hours I was at O'Hare before I even got through the line.
Yeah.
The next time I flew, which was I think maybe not even a year later, right through. Maybe 20 minutes tops or whatever, took my shoes off, all those things. These things, it takes a little time, but once they get hammered out, they get hammered out. And the biggest thing that we take from this is again, we don't have any tragedy we're doing this for. We're doing this because we don't want anything to happen. And we're all on the same page of that as a society. I don't think anybody is looking for anything bad. So, we all want the same thing here.
Yeah.
And it'll get there.
No, and it's nice that we're starting in October of this year. That's going to give us a few months to work the kinks out and then have everything really rolling smoothly once we start off in the beginning of January. So we have that, that 3 months of, I wouldn't say a test time, but it's, because it's going to be live, but it'll give us the opportunity to work it and see, hey, do we need to make some modifications, some changes or something of that nature.
We are going to take a really short break, and we'll be back with more with Sheriff Shawn Becker and Joe Zerflu and Wisconsin Rapids Community Lieutenant Joe Zerflu. Get that right,
You're
man.
fine, you're fine.
But that's a good title. I want to get that in there. And Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, more morning magazine for you on AM 1320 WFHR. We're in the final segment of Morning Magazine. We are joined by Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker and Lieutenant Joe Zerflu. We have Wisconsin Rapids Community Media with us, and we are giving away tickets to Crime Stoppers. Want to mention that again?
Yeah, Crime Stoppers event this Friday night at the PAC Center here in Wisconsin Rapids. The event is a fundraiser for Wood County Crime Stoppers. They do it every year, and this year they've got a band coming in, a tribute to the Beatles, the Britons. So knowing the marketing company that Crime Stoppers uses, they usually bring in a really good band, and it's entertaining. So yeah, they're free. Somebody wants to call, and even after the show, we'll leave them here at the studio.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
We got 4 of them here, complimentary tickets. Please call in or stop in and grab them. Or if you want me to deliver them, I will do that.
Yeah, there you go. Very classy of you, sir. Be sure to be listening to Over the Back Fence today, because we'll have those 4 tickets. I have 4 tickets from Baskerville to give away. Cool. So it's going to be a good show today. Be sure to be listening to that.
Yeah.
You have a crisis intervention class that you do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take a minute to kind of touch on that, because it's a really important class. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that talking to listeners out there, not everybody knows about.
Yeah, several years now, we've been working with Wood County Human Services and Crisis. We had Doug Christensen on here before, Deputy Doug Christensen, and then also Katie Siz, who runs Crisis, and talked about extensively this program. But I'm very proud to say that I'll be finally getting the opportunity to go to the training myself. I've wanted to go to it quite some time. I've helped put it on, but I never had gotten to sit down and absorb the week-long training. So looking forward to it. It'll be next week. Our chief deputy is going to go to Randy Dorst, and we got a full class. It's over at Mid-State Technical College. Again, we talked about that partnership that we have with them holding this type of class. They've been very, very helpful doing it. But the training itself is mental health awareness for law enforcement officers. It's been going on for, like I said, several years. And it's probably one of the most important trainings that law enforcement officers can have. It doesn't give you the tools to diagnose a situation, but it gives you the tools to make you aware of a situation. And when you're talking to people in our community that are suffering from a mental health issue or an illness, it gives you an opportunity to talk with them in a different way, and then provide information that you can to other services, such as Crisis. Mm-hmm. If somebody is, depressed, suicidal, they can, get that appropriate information and pass along to Crisis to make a decision where we can help that individual. And for me, I really hope as we move forward here as a community that you keep breaking that stigma of mental health. A lot of people have issues going on throughout their life, and they should feel comfortable seeking out help. And where I really look at it is, where you can go to a medical provider, where you don't have to call law enforcement, where you can go either to an emergency room and get help if you're having some issues in your life. And I hope someday that happens, because I really strongly believe that that's the opportunity we can have to really help a lot of people in breaking that stigma.
It was one of the first things we talked about that I immediately gained respect for you about, that you look deeper, and it's not enough to stop crimes and everything, but why do they happen? Why are they happening? Why does one individual continue to commit crimes? And sometimes it is just just a bad apple, but a lot of times too, there is a little bit deeper to that, and it goes to mental health. And for so long, it has been a stigma about that, because it's not a broken bone and we don't see it hanging out and everything, that it's not as deep or it's not as bad, when oftentimes it's even deeper than some. And to know that you guys are taking that initiative, that you guys think of those things, and that comes into play. It's also another thing too, to keep in mind that we're not making excuses for anybody. This isn't excusing anybody's behavior. It's just explaining it a little bit more, and hopefully helping us understand it more as a society, so we can keep these things from happening in the future, or we can help people before they do something stupid or what have it. I was talking with a student about this the other day. John Wayne was in therapy. John Wayne. I mean, the definition for a lot of us of Mr. Manly Man. Gary Cooper, another one. These were the guys that took therapy. They did. They understood that there were things going on in their heads that they didn't always quite get, and sometimes you need a third perspective for that, or that kind of thing. So, I mean, if we can talk about it in that respect, and it's around then. It's 2019. As a society, we got to grow up. We got to be able to accept this stuff and understand that.
No, I think it's getting better.
It
I
is.
think the stigma, if you would have gone back 20 years ago, we'd probably be having a different conversation. But, and all law enforcement agencies, this isn't something that the sheriff's department is doing. It's all law enforcement is looking at. And so is the training that's coming up, not only for, next week, but in our academies. Mental health is a very hot topic, and it should be. Like I said, I believe that we're going in the right direction, and I hope in my career someday that, like Ed said, where if somebody's having an issue or feeling depressed, or they want some help, they can go to the hospital and get it.
Yeah. We have about 2 minutes left.
Sure.
Was there anything we didn't get a chance to touch on that you guys want to
call Captain Quentin Ellis? He was on the Family Center board for several years. He stepped away from the board. He just got really busy and let somebody else take the opportunity for a law enforcement officer to be on the board. Well, he was recognized by the Family Center as the Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. So I'm really proud of Quentin and his work of working with the Family Center, who works with victims of domestic violence here in the Southwood County area. I'm really happy that they recognized him and for him to be part of that board for numerous years. So thank you, Quentin. There'll be a ceremony coming up this month, since this is also Domestic Awareness Month. And the Family Center will be putting that on here shortly. Take a look at their Facebook page or website for the specific date. I don't have it in front of me, but Quentin will be recognized with a lot of other community members that help out, at the Family Center. I
always cherish any chance I get to talk with Debbie over there. She's such a great soul, and they're one of those groups that, I joke with her all the time. I wish you didn't have a job, Deb. I wish we didn't need you, but the fact that we do, and the fact that they're there, and the way you guys and the way that the community is with them, it's so nice to see. It's so good to see that there is a welcoming and embracement and an understanding that. It's unfortunate we need that, but it is so vital that we do have it, and that we have that resource. Great to hear about him. That's good.
Really proud of Quentin to be awarded that. Well deserved.
Thank you both so much for being in. Appreciate you, especially you, Joe. I didn't get to make you work too much today, but
I got off easy today.
Do appreciate it, and look forward to talking with you both again real soon.
Yeah, looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you again. Speaking with Wood County Sheriff Shawn Becker and Lieutenant Joe Zerflu, and a big thank you to our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media as well. They'll be in with us again soon.